We don't need all that legal paperwork, Emily. Just trust me, Marcus said, leaning casually against the kitchen counter. He acted like he hadn't just suggested moving his mistress into his new apartment while keeping me stuck in our marriage. You can stay here, and everyone wins. I gripped my coffee mug, letting its warmth steady me as I studied my husband of 8 years. He stood there, confident in his expensive new suit, one I probably helped pay for, thinking I'd go along with his little plan. My name is Emily. I'm 34, and I was watching my husband try to have it both ways. The irony wasn't lost on me that we were in the Victorian house my grandmother left me, the same grandmother who taught me about dignity and self-respect. So let me get this straight, I said calmly. You want to move in with Jessica, your 26-year-old assistant, but you don't want a legal divorce or financial settlement. Marcus grinned, mistaking my question for agreement. Exactly. No lawyers, no court drama. You keep the house, I get my freedom. It's perfect. I sipped my coffee, thinking about the legal document sitting upstairs, the one Marcus never read when my grandmother passed away. He was too busy with a very important deal to even attend her funeral. And what about our joint accounts, the investments we made together? I asked. He waved a hand dismissively. We'll figure that out later. Jessica and I found a great apartment and the lease starts next week. I just need to know you won't make this difficult. The morning light shone through the stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns on the hardwood floor. My grandmother had restored those windows herself. I remembered cleaning them with her as she shared lessons on family, loyalty, and self-respect. You know, I said, rinsing my mug, Grandma Rose always said trust is earned, not given. Marcus rolled his eyes. Not everything has to be a lesson from your grandmother, Emily. This is about happiness. Jessica makes me happy. Can't you understand that? I dried my hands, thinking of the clause Grandma Rose had added to her will, the one she explained to me years ago with a knowing smile. Sometimes, dear, she had said, the best way to protect yourself is to let people think they're getting what they want. All right, I said, turning to face Marcus. No legal paperwork. No divorce. You can move in with Jessica next week. His face lit up. I knew you'd understand. This is why you're different from other women. So practical, so reasonable. He didn't notice the small smile on my lips. Marcus never was good at reading people, especially women. That's why he never understood my grandmother, and why he never bothered to read the details of the inheritance. I'll start packing tonight, he said, checking his expensive watch, another thing I helped him afford. Oh, and don't worry about the joint account. I'll still cover my share of the house expenses. I nodded, watching him practically skip out of the kitchen, already texting Jessica about their victory. As his footsteps disappeared upstairs, I walked into my grandmother's old study, now my study. I opened the bottom drawer and pulled out the leather folder containing her will. On page 6 was the clause she had added, in her careful handwriting. If the spouse of the inheritor abandons the marriage without legal dissolution while maintaining financial ties, all joint assets shall be automatically frozen and placed in trust. I traced my fingers over her signature. Grandma Rose had seen through Marcus the first time she met him. She knew his type, charming, ambitious, always looking for an easy way out. That's why she had put this clause in place, along with several others Marcus was about to discover. Thanks, Grandma, I whispered, listening to Marcus hum as he packed. He had no idea what was coming. I picked up my phone and sent a quick email to Mr. Patterson, my grandmother's lawyer. It's time. Marcus is moving out Monday. Please proceed with Protocol R. His reply came within minutes. Everything is prepared, Emily. Your grandmother would be proud. I smiled, thinking about how shocked Marcus would be when he learned what keeping things simple really meant. From upstairs, I heard him laughing on the phone, probably with Jessica, celebrating his win. Let him laugh. Monday was coming. Monday arrived with the kind of crisp autumn air my grandmother had always loved. I sat in my study, watching through the window as Marcus loaded the last of his boxes into his BMW. He'd been cheerful all weekend, acting as if he were doing me a favor by leaving. I left my keys on the counter, he said, stepping back inside. I'll transfer my share of the house expenses tonight. See, we can be civil about this. I nodded. Of course. Have a good life, Marcus. He hesitated, maybe surprised by how calm I was. But then his phone buzzed, probably Jessica, and he gave me a quick wave before walking out. leaving behind 8 years of marriage without a second glance. I waited until this card disappeared before texting Mr. Patterson. He's gone. His reply came instantly. Excellent. Protocol R is now active. Give it about an hour. I made myself tea in my grandmother's old porcelain set and settled in to wait. The house felt peaceful, not empty. The clock on the wall, the one my grandmother had restored, ticked steadily, marking the minutes. 53 minutes later, my phone rang. Marcus's name flashed on the screen. Emily. His voice was panicked. Something's wrong with my cards. They're all being declined, even my ATM card. That's strange, I said, sipping my tea. Did you call the bank? I'm at the bank right now. They're saying all our joint accounts are frozen. Something about a trust? What did you do? I could hear the frustration in his voice, already blaming me instead of himself. Typical. I didn't do anything, Marcus. It's from Grandma Rose's will, the one you never read because you were too busy at the funeral. A long pause. What are you talking about? There's a clause in the inheritance, I explained. If a spouse leaves the marriage without a legal divorce but keeps financial ties, all joint assets are frozen and placed in a trust. Page 6, if you're curious. Silence. I could picture him standing in the bank, his face turning red as he realized what had happened. You can't be serious, he finally sputtered. That's not legal. It is. Grandma Rose had excellent lawyers. If you had paid attention to the estate meetings, you'd know that. She put this clause in place to prevent, well, exactly what you tried to do. But what about my apartment? Jessica's waiting for me. I need to pay the deposit today. I took another sip of tea. That's unfortunate. Maybe you should have thought of that before deciding to keep things simple without legal paperwork. Emily, be reasonable. His voice shifted to his usual smooth, persuasive tone. Maybe I was too hasty about moving out. We can talk. Actually, I interrupted, there's more. The only way to unfreeze the accounts is to either go through a legal divorce with proper asset division or sign an agreement to attend marriage counseling. I heard him suck in a sharp breath. Marcus hated therapy. He always said it was for weak people who couldn't fix their own problems. You planned this, he accused. You and your grandmother set me up. No, Marcus, you planned this. You wanted to move in with Jessica while keeping me financially tied to you. Grandma Rose just made sure there were consequences. In the background, I heard Jessica's voice asking what was wrong. The irony made me smile. He would now have to explain to his new girlfriend that his wife's grandmother had outsmarted him. This isn't over, he snapped. You're right, I said. It's not over until you either divorce me properly or agree to counseling. Your choice. Mr. Patterson has the paperwork ready for both. And Marcus, the longer you wait, the more the trust earns interest. Granville was very thorough. I ended the call and walked to the window. The autumn leaves were turning gold and red, just like my grandmother had loved. Autumn shows us how beautiful it is to let things go, she used to say. My phone buzzed with a text from Mr. Patterson. Marcus just called. He's upset. Should I send him the full terms of the trust? I smiled. There were plenty more surprises waiting for Marcus in that document. Yes, I replied. I think it's time he learned what keeping things simple really means. Outside, the breeze carried a few leaves from the old maple tree my grandmother had planted years ago. Its roots were deep, just like her wisdom. Marcus was about to learn that some lessons come with a hefty price. 2 weeks later, I sat across from Marcus in Mr. Patterson's office. His hands shook as he signed the divorce papers. Gone was his expensive suit. He now wore wrinkled chacos and a faded polo. His hair was messy, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. The past 2 weeks had been rough for him. Without access to our joint accounts, he had to move back in with his parents. Jessica quickly lost interest when she realized their luxury apartment dreams were over. He also discovered another surprise. Most of his investments were tied to joint assets, which were now frozen under the trust. Initial here, Mr. Patterson pointed, and here. This confirms you agree to the asset division. Marcus clenched his jaw as he signed. The terms were fair, exactly what he would have gotten with a proper divorce from the start. But now he had no power, no secret funds, and no choice. You must be happy, he muttered, avoiding my eyes. You and your grandmother planned this all along. Actually, I said, Grandma Rose thought better of you than you deserved. The trust had a reconciliation option. Counseling, remember, you chose this, just like you chose to miss her funeral for a business deal. Mr. Patterson cleared his throat. Everything is in order. Mrs. Walker, you'll keep the house and your personal accounts. Mr. Walker, your share of the assets will be transferred within 48 hours. As we stood to leave, Marcus lingered at the door. I don't understand, he said, confused. Why didn't you tell me about the clause when I first said I was moving out? I thought about all the times he ignored my grandmother's wisdom, skipped family dinners, and made me feel small for valuing tradition over his idea of success. Would you have listened? I asked. He had no answer. Walking out of the office, I felt lighter than I had in years. The crisp autumn air smelled of fallen leaves and new beginnings. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend, Anna. Done? Ready for that bottle of wine? Come over, I replied. I have a story to tell you. That evening in my grandmother's, my study, Anna and I toasted to fresh starts. I told her everything. Marcus's plan, the trust clause, and his downfall. Your grandmother was brilliant, Anna said, raising her glass. She protected you even after she was gone. I smiled, touching the leather folder that held her will. She understood people better than they understood themselves. She saw through Marcus from the start. What about Jessica? Anna asked. Did she really dump him over the apartment? I laughed. Yep. She didn't want to live with his parents while he sorted things out. Last I heard, she's dating one of the partners at his firm. Karma, Anna grinned, pouring more wine. Looking around the study, I felt my grandmother's presence. The room held her favorite books, old photographs, and pieces of a life well lived. She always said real wealth wasn't just money, it was wisdom, self-respect, and knowing when to stand your ground. You know what's funny? I said, running a finger along the spine of her favorite book. Marcus kept saying he wanted to keep things simple. In the end, that's exactly what happened, just not the way he planned. Anna raised her glass. To Grandma Rose, the queen of long-game revenge. Not revenge, I corrected, smiling. Justice. She always said there's a difference. Later that night, after Anna left, I sat in my grandmother's rocking chair by the window. The moonlight streamed through the stained glass, casting soft patterns on the floor. In my hands, I held the last letter she'd written me. My dearest Emily, it read. Strength isn't about never getting hurt. It's about knowing how to protect yourself. Some people will take advantage of your kindness. Let them think they're succeeding, right up until they learn their lesson. I folded the letter and looked at her portrait. Her eyes twinkled with that mix of wisdom and mischief. Thanks, Grandma, I whispered, for everything. Outside, the autumn wind rustled through the trees, carrying away the last traces of my life with Marcus. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new adventures. But tonight, I celebrated the wisdom of a woman who had known exactly what I would need, long before I did. Sometimes the best endings aren't about winning or losing. They're about knowing your worth and walking away from those who never saw it in the first place.